said, I'm the Director from Strategic Procurement for Gloucestershire County Council. I do have a background in commissioning and procurement, but I also chair something called the National Advisory Group for Procurement, previously known as NAG. So according to my husband, I am actually the Chief NAG. There's also a group which is a National Category Management Group for Social Care Commissioning, both children and adults, called the Local Government Collaborative Commissioning Group, which I also chair. So I'm coming at this talk with a bit of a national perspective about what we're trying to achieve. Thank you for coming back after lunch. I will try and make this a little bit lively so that people don't completely fall asleep. I appreciate this, it's a graveyard slot. Also, I have tweaked this presentation slightly. I never stick to slides, but I have tweaked it slightly. Because I appreciate that there's an awful lot of private sector audience, so hopefully I won't just be talking to public sector people, and I'll make it relevant to you. I do feel incredibly short actually, so I'll start jumping up and down in a second. Okay, so challenges facing local government. Presumably there are some. If it was all going swimmingly, you wouldn't be here today, would you? Because we wouldn't need a conference, because we would get on doing the great stuff. Well, first of all, obviously we all know it's incredibly complicated. I'm not going to reiterate what the other speakers have been saying, but there is just so much going on. I've been in procurement for 23 years, and it feels like it's become horribly complicated for me. Some of the things like the localism agenda and the right to challenge, I think, are really challenging us. I don't know about rights to challenge anything else. And actually those agendas, things like trading and schools and academies, and just absolutely everything, the policy questions that we're being asked to solve through procurement, absolutely a massive agenda, and quite often people say, so where do we start? I don't know, the private sector, I mean, we're meant to be changing all the time with procurement. It'd be very interesting to find out, people in the private sector, what your views are. Do you think we actually are changing? Put your hands up if you think that, if you're in the private sector, if you think that local government procurement has changed significantly over the last, say, 5 years. You're either very shy or you don't think we've changed it. Can you put your hand up if you think we haven't changed significantly? Very interesting. I always think that we're always saying that we're on this journey and we're doing these great change things. I mean, obviously it's not an empirical study, but at the same time it's very interesting to understand what people think. Sometimes I wonder whether we're talking the talk and actually not doing an awful lot different sometimes. Okay. I personally believe that amongst all this complexity, we need to be asking ourselves 3 big questions. And those 3 questions, I think, will set us on the way to having a plan. They won't solve a plan for us, but I think they will take us forward. And I think if we don't answer these 3 questions, then I think we will remain slightly stuck. The first one is, what is procurement for? What do commissioners do? These strange things. I always think the word commissioning is possibly one of my least favourite words at the moment. I always think you can judge the complexity of a subject and confusion around a subject by the number of conferences with it in the title. And commissioning, I think, tops the bill at the moment. And what does collaboration mean? Because we talk about it all the time while we're doing it. Now, apologies for this. I was trawling around. I love this slide. I was trawling around for images, as you do before you're doing a presentation, and I came across this. I have no idea whether a chicken lived 18 months without a head, and I didn't pry into that because I didn't want to ruin the mystique. But I came across headless wonder chicken, even that really grabbed me, to be honest, lived 18 months without head. But I do actually like the analogy here, because if we are not absolutely clear on what procurement is for, then we are slightly headless chickens. And I think most procurement people are actually very good at technically doing procurement, but if we don't know what we're for, if we don't know our purpose, then we are potentially running the risk of scratching around like headless chickens without being masters of our own destiny. So let's not be headless chickens. We also have obviously lived for longer than 18 months, but with the commissioning agenda, maybe we are running the risk of becoming a dying breed. And if you ask commissioners, I think you'll find that that probably would be a good thing in their eyes. Many commissioners, anyway, many wouldn't. Okay, so enough of that frivolity. So what is the role of procurement? Apologies, Barry, because we've had a fantastic presentation from my colleague Barry Bella around brilliant savings that Sheffield were making, and obviously that is brilliant. I wish, I was sitting there agreeing with them, wishing that I was up here saying we'd done the same in Gloucestershire. I'm not up here saying the same in Gloucestershire, so it's a pity. But I will be speaking to Barry about how we do that. But Deloitte fairly recently did a survey of around about 100 procurement heads about what do procurement heads think are the most important, what is the most important role of procurement? And not surprisingly, the vast majority of them said to make savings. Now, I have a slight issue with this, because I do not believe that any organisation or any department strategically exists solely to make savings. I think that would be a logical nonsense for any organisation to have a budget just to make savings. You don't have budgets just to make savings. And also the whole view of savings, potentially, and this isn't to denigrate people making savings because it is really, really, really important, can potentially highlight historic weaknesses, not best practice. So yes, you have to address historic weaknesses, but at the same time, if I do something very, very badly and then I make savings, then, wouldn't I? The other issue that we're being asked is to make cashable savings. And cashable savings are nice and easy to measure. But actually, my personal view, and Barry saying the same sort of thing, is that we make the biggest savings, or the biggest effect on the budget book, by the things we stop people buying. In fact, in Gloucestershire, they are starting to call me the director of not doing any procurement, please, because I stop people doing procurement whenever I can. Because demand management and not buying things will save us an awful lot more money than squeezing that last few penny out of each new procurement. And demand management and doing things different and innovation is endless, whereas squeezing prices down has a finite effect, and you can only do it a few times, and then we'll be asking suppliers to give us things for free, or even pairs to take it off their hands. And obviously that's not going to happen, although I might have a go. So savings are important, but actually maybe the focus on savings is stopping us being incredibly strategic, and the focus on cashable savings stops us, takes our finger off the pulse of the places that we add value around demand management. So we might be here to manage markets and supply chains. I think that's a little bit more strategic, and that means that we do need to be doing it in, again, the way that Sheffield was presenting, talking to our suppliers, and actually you should be seeing more of that, because actually procurement should be managing that side of things. Quality, little bit more strategic. The example of the aircraft, was it an aircraft? An aeroplane that couldn't fuel in flight or whatever. Now it's our role to actually not make those things happen. Obviously I'm not going to buy one, so I didn't at school. Delivering policy. Now this is getting into the more strategic realms, and I think this is where procurement really does add value. And this is where, again, our supply base really helps as well, because you want people out there on the ground delivering services, and you can see what's happening. So when we're looking at the whole issue of market management, market engagement, and then delivering quality and policy through procurement, we cannot do that in our darkened room without coming out to our supply base and talking to you. And you should be demanding that of us, because that for me, denotes the day job. And delivering the organisational strategy. Again, the aircraft thingy example is a perfect example. The actual role of the organisation is to deliver this functionality, and poor procurement can actually stop that happening. And the whole procurement route, the whole strategy that was described by the earlier speaker was clearly flawed. And that was because, presumably, procurement wasn't there or strategically there at the early enough stage to inform the process going forward. And that's where we need to be. Procurement needs to be at the top table. It needs to be delivering growth strategies. It needs to be a strategic voice, a director level. Bearing in mind, as again Barry said, we're enabling authorities. Most of our spend is bought spend. We don't do things in local government anymore. We buy them in from people like yourself. So if we're buying that in, then procurement is a really important function. It's a strategic function, and we should be the agent for change, the agent for innovation, and the strategic driver in an organisation. So the role of procurement is all of the above and more. You'll probably think of lots of other things as well, but obviously we only have 25 minutes. How do we get that voice at the top table? Well, obviously we do need to have the influence of the spend. Again, I won't go into that because Barry did. We need capacity to influence internal clients. They need to listen to us. And obviously they're not going to listen to us if what we're saying isn't credible, so we do need to have the skills of people skills and motivational skills within procurement. We can't just be procurement people, we have to be senior managers in organisations. We have to influence all third-party spend. I was amazed that Sheffield got to 100%. I hate to think what it is in Gloucestershire. I probably should know, and I absolutely don't, which is not good actually, to be honest. There's bits that we half influence and bits that we kind of try and influence, and we don't have a finite figure. We need to invest in top quality people. We need to have that role supporting the local economy and growth. And new models of delivery. Again, we can work on a national arena, talking to procurement people across the piece, and we need to be part of the delivery of this new agenda of innovation, localism, and these new models. And there's a lot of risks with the way that new businesses are being set up, and procurement can support that with their commercial knowledge. Flying through these because of time. One thing we have identified is that there is I think, a major skills gap in procurement. We've all majored on learning to be good at buying things, supply chain management, technical procurement people. And what we are missing is the second side of this equation, the interpersonal skills, the enterprise skills, the external enterprise skills, and the strategic business management leadership skills that we need to have that legitimate place in the top table. And just from a supply side as well, if we're not good at doing our jobs, if we're not good at influencing procurement, if you have people, like Barry say, people doing procurement that aren't trained professionals, that don't know what they're doing, what you end up with is a whole raft of complexity and confusion, I think. I mean, I've once again been in procurement for 23 years. I've come across some very poor procurement documents that I would find very difficult to tender. Again, people out there in the private sector, hands up if you've ever come across a document that you found almost impossible to respond to as a tender. Can you put your hand up again if you've done that in the last 3 years? That's very disappointing, but I'm absolutely not surprised, to be honest. I've come across some very strange documents, and it's very worrying, some very large documents, and I felt you could probably have cut out most of that document and still tendered on. You wonder who's managing that document when actually it's not a novel. You know, I don't know if any of us are resourced to manage novels with our contracts, not for small procurements anyway. And you know, sometimes we can go to absolute overkill in local government because we don't really know what's appropriate. So again, tell us if you think we're doing that, because it's a message, I'm not going to say this, but I think it's a message we do need to hear. So we need to make sure that we've got the right skills. The next big question, commissioners, what do they do? Have you seen one? There's a lot of commissioning diagrams, circles, cycles posted around, and for me they all say pretty much the same thing. They say understand, plan, do options, appraisals, and do, implement and monitor, and that's the sort of cycle. And don't get me wrong, I love the concept of commissioning, I just hate the word. The concept of commissioning, for me, says doing things properly, because actually any large plan, even if it's not a procurement, you should be looking at the need, you should be looking at you should be consulting, you should be planning, you should be then thinking about the options, and then you should be implementing wisely and carefully, and then you should be monitoring. That makes sense to me. I don't know why we've called it commissioning, and maybe that's a bit that's confusing me, but actually it's all of our jobs to do those things properly. When you look at a procurement cycle, I don't see a whole lot of difference between a commissioning cycle and a procurement cycle. And in the Health Authority, they've actually, in the Health Authority, they've actually combined the two. So you've got this kind of combined procurement cycle. I think this is one I borrowed from Health. I think what they've tried to do there is show that the interdependency. Now, so if we're going to be public sector people, hands up if your authority is thinking of or is becoming a commissioning authority. Am I the only one? It seems to be the way that authorities are going at the moment in England. So if you're providing, you're going to get used to the words commissioning and have to understand what that means. And if you're a local government officer or public sector person, then you're probably going to have to get far more familiar with the whole commissioning word. But I imagine there's as many definitions of commissioning as there are people in this room, which I think is the thing that worries me. I'm going to try and simplify it in my head. My view is that there's probably two big differences between procurement and commissioning. I think that the cycle is exactly the same. I don't think I would embark on any large procurement without doing the needs analysis, the consultation, the planning, the option appraisal, the implementation and the monitoring. For me, they're exactly the same. The best practice for anything we do that's a new project or a around project. The difference for me with commissioning and procurement is that commissioners are likely to have more specialist sector knowledge. So they're kind of the client, in my eyes. I may or may not agree with that. And the other difference is that a commissioning project may or may not involve a procurement. Because the Audit Commission's definition of commissioning is aligning services to meet needs. Well, you can do that without doing a procurement. You can look at your in-house services, you can do all sorts of things. So procurement may or may not be part of commissioning. It may drop out at some point during the process. But my personal view is it does need to be there at the strategic start of the process because it needs to be part of that make or buy decision. But I went to the National Commissioning Contracting Conference down in Derby in the spring, very good conference. And I voiced this opinion to a few commissioners and then had to leave quite quickly. A lot of people felt that, a lot of commissioners felt that procurement was very much smaller, very much more contained and very much more tactical than commissioning. My view is that there's very little difference and that we have to work as a partnership and a network. And the last one, the last big question is, what does collaboration mean? My view is, again, that we're not doing it. We do it a bit. There's some great practice going on all over the place, but the fact is that we're still winning awards for collaboration. And while we're winning awards for something, then it sort of speaks to me that it's not the day job, because actually, you should be winning awards for doing the day job. Has anyone been on a plane recently? Obviously, probably lots of people have been on a plane recently. The thing that worries me about going on a plane, and I'm sure I don't remember this from I don't know what the old days are, but from a long time ago, is when you land on a plane now, everyone seems to applaud the pilot. Now, I'm not sure what his alternative was, and I'm not sure what I'm clapping him for. Every time every time I let a contract, or every time I write a report, or every time I turn up to work, I don't get applause. It's the day job. And I think we should stop applauding collaboration and just treat it as a day job, although I won't keep clapping the pilot because I'm always terrified when I land on a plane. But no, collaboration should be the absolute norm. We shouldn't be treating it as something that you win awards for. We should be treating it as something if we don't do it, or if we've got not very good reason for not doing it or looking at it, something is wrong, because then collaboration becomes real. But it's not all that easy, is it? There's a lot of barriers to collaboration. I'm not an IT person, but I would say that IT seems to be a really good excuse for not collaborating. And we need to sort that out. Surely it is within our gift for us to collaborate on IT as well as the procurement of things. And I know some of the London authorities now are doing some massive collaboration, which include the IT process, which will hopefully show us the way. Sorry, I've been scribbling on my notes because I was also trying to tailor it for the public sector. So what does collaboration mean? Well, it does mean, for me, it means a single voice on some of the weightier issues. Again, I know I'm doing a lot of hands up, but it's a graveyard slot and it kind of hopefully keeps you awake, although if your hand up doesn't go up, it probably means you're not awake. Hands up, who's had a letter or knows anything around the issue at the moment with the National Federation of Builders? And I know we're represented here by the National Federation of Builders on how we analyse bids. Any conversation on that? As local authorities, we should be talking to our suppliers as one voice. We shouldn't be individually responding to lots of different letters. I think that's absolutely commercial nonsense. And as suppliers, I think that you should have one person to come to, or one group of local authorities to come to and have that discussion with, and hopefully that's what we'll be able to deliver. But at the moment, because we're all acting as disparate individuals, issues like this, issues like things like, I'm just trying to think of something else, Social Value Act, where you've got great ideas, where people are delivering great things, or any other innovation, places that you want to come and prospect to, people, you've got good ideas. Again, you've got to come to hundreds of different local authorities, you've got to find lots of different people to speak to. So actually, as a single voice, local government needs to have a view, as a single place where we can have those discussions with suppliers, like yourselves. Also, we need to think of ourselves as equal partners to our central government colleagues. You had GPS services speaking this morning. I unfortunately was walking into lampposts while that was happening, so I missed that particular speech. But we should be at the table as equal partners. We do a lot of great things in local government, and we should be sharing them with GPS. We shouldn't be sort of coming along to them saying, well, what guidance can you give us, what can you give us? We should be all around the table together deciding which partner delivers what, but we should be doing that as equal partners. Another thing that collaboration delivers for me is national category management. And this is not about great big frameworks before everyone gets very, very scared, because I know that is a term that really worries people, and it really worries me as well. I think there's a lot of frameworks that are let inappropriately because people just want to wash their hands of something. They don't even look at how much spend will be going through that framework. They're not looking at who might be signing up to that framework. They let a framework, and actually you're not going to get best value because you haven't done the planning, the commissioning, whatever you want to call it, before you've let that framework. So, certainly, as local government though, we have, for instance, Gloucestershire at the moment, we're just about to let a highways contract. What we did was we had to ring round all of our colleagues and find out who else was letting a highways contract and try and distill all that intelligence. Now, if we had national category management, we'd have category experts, we'd be able to share category resources, we'd have a national understanding of the data, of the market. And then when we wanted to talk to the market about things like, highways or whatever, we would be able to have that single conversation. We'd be able to share knowledge and best practice and information. But at the moment, we don't have that single repository for that. So again, for me, that's what collaboration means. And I don't know if that's comprehensible, but that's the sort of image that I was anticipating with national category management, where you've got a national group which looks at single issues for procurement. Then you've got the categories across the top. Then you can look at what can be done nationally, so best practice can be delivered nationally. What can be done regionally, sometimes regional frameworks or regional approaches. And what can be done locally. And it absolutely depends on the category. If you're looking at energy, then probably a lot of things can be done nationally. If you're looking at social care, then a lot of things are going to happen down in this local box. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that there isn't room for a national approach, some national experts and some national capacity, so that we're not all trying to hire our own experts to do these major contracts once every 7 years. There's some national learning. You're never going to read all this, so I'm going to fly through it, but there is a group, the Local Government Collaborative Commissioning Group, which I chair, which is a national category group for social care. We certainly didn't take the easy one. It does all these things, and these slides apparently you'll be able to get, so you can read what we do. And this is how we do it, and again, I'm not going to read that through. I'm not going to go through this, but what some of the products that we're already trying to deliver, we've realised that there are all these different disparate groups going on trying to deliver national stuff, and one of them is trying to deliver a national schools contract. So what we're trying to do is actually take that under an umbrella so we can get some national comms, some national recognition, and some national sign-up and buy-in to one style of contract. And we're working very, very closely with our suppliers on this as well. It's not just a national contract we're going to write and then drop onto the market. It's something we're writing in partnership, and that's going to be its strength. We're looking at an e-marketplace for social care. So again, we're not just looking at one contract or contract styles, we're looking at how we address some of the process issues, some of the big challenges like personalisation, how we can have a marketplace so that people can go onto a computer system and source and maybe buy their own care, go to the market direct. something that the local government, the local authorities can facilitate, but suppliers can go on and deliver local solutions to people direct through a marketplace. We're looking at costing models. In Gloucestershire, we developed a model for costing residential and residential care for learning disability, for people with a learning disability. We weren't, as procurement people, saying we know what needs someone's got. What we were doing is answering it as a procurement question and saying what do people need to buy to make those needs. So it's actually the procurement solution to the delivery of the commissioning agenda. Very, very successful in talking to the market. What we were doing with this tool is actually unpicking, again, it's a demand management tool in a way. We went out to one supplier and we sort of said, why are you charging us this much? Our tool says that, you know, we should be paying much, much less than this. And the supplier looked at it, very, very good supplier, very conscientious supplier, and they looked at the tool and they looked at what they were delivering, and they found out actually they were way oversupplying what this young person wanted. In fact, they had someone who was employed waking nights to get up and make him a cup of cocoa at 3 in the morning. And we were saying, well, you know, when you're buying care, if you've done commission, if you've bought care, one thing you don't want to do is increase dependency of people in care. And I'd say having someone on tap to make you cocoa at any point in the night is probably increasing a bit of dependency. So we all agreed that actually, once you start looking at what you're buying, and again it echoes what Barry's saying, once you start managing contracts and understanding what you're paying for, there are ways to take out costs out of a system that is in everyone's interest. The supplier thought that the service user was better off once he realised that it's probably not a good idea to get up at 3 in the morning and drink cocoa, and obviously we were paying much less money. So we have a work plan, and that's just one example of national category management. And the good news is that there is currently being developed a national procurement strategy. I think this will, I personally very strongly think this will be a good thing for both suppliers and local government procurement and services out there. We're currently building the case for change. We're consulting with heads of procurement. We've had workshops with the National Advisory Group for Procurement, and next month we're hoping for a final endorsement for this business case with the LGA. So great stuff. And the even better news is that the strategy is doing a lot of the things that I've just been describing. So we're looking at raising the profile of procurement. We're looking at a leadership academy, capacity and capability development. The LGA have also, I think we mentioned this, one of the previous speakers mentioned that they're also doing a commissioning academy. And we're looking at spend data, so we're looking at all of that at the moment. But also if you're in public sector, or even if you're not, you can be instrumental in raising the profile of procurement. You can go out of this room today and be part of this agenda, because if you think it's important, you probably wouldn't be here if you didn't. Then go out and shout about that and be an ambassador for this. We're already looking at how we do a single voice. We've got groups like SOPO, Society of Procurement Officers, we've got the National Advisory Group. We're looking at how we deal with the comms and how we get, shout about that. And we're also looking at the prospect of national category management. And as I say, it exists in fragmented pockets already. What we're trying to do is pull this together as a strategy. So, key messages from today. Make procurement a strategic function that adds value as well as reducing costs. So it's not just about savings, it's about a whole raft of strategic functions.